Hello, and welcome back. The goal of this screencast is to review the trial procedures or to put the trial into action. This is the moment when all of the preparation that the students have done really comes into action. During the trial, the students will follow this protocol step by step until the trial is complete. As you can see, this is a step-by-step guide of the trial procedures. In this guide, I have listed all of the major steps in the trial. And I have also incorporated additional information that is important to understanding the trial procedures. That can be found in any of the bolded boxes. So let's take a look at the steps, starting with step 1, opening of the trial. This is the first time that the judge will address the courtroom. They will give their opening statement, and the main purpose is to swear in the jury. And this is just to remind the jury that they are not to have any bias and need to try the case fairly. This can be done by providing a script for the judge, like one you see here, or you can give the judge guidelines and they can create their own opening testimony or their own opening statement. Once the judge has addressed the jury, it's time to move on to step 2, which is opening statements. Each side will present their opening statement to the judge and jury prior to the direct examination of their witnesses. The prosecution will introduce themselves to the judge and jury and then read their opening statements. Once the prosecution is finished, then the defense will introduce themselves to the judge and jury and read their opening statements. Once these opening statements are complete, then it's time for prosecution witnesses to be called to the stand, which leads us to step 3. All witnesses need to be sworn in prior to answering any questions. And this is just a simple verbal reminder to the students that all of the information or testimony they are about to give needs to be backed by legitimate evidence that has been provided to them through the documents or resources, and that what they're saying is truthful. Once the witness has been sworn in, then it's time for step 4, which is direct examination. The prosecution will call all of their witnesses to the stand at one time. After the witness has been sworn in, they will then read their testimony, which has already been prepared. After the witness reads their testimony, then the prosecution may begin questioning their witness. In this questioning, witnesses may respond with, "I do not know," if they do not have evidence to back what they're responding to, or they may refer to their own written testimony at any time. Once the prosecution is finished questioning their witness, they will let the court know or let the judge know, and then it's on to step 5, which is cross-examination. Cross-examination is the defense's opportunity to show flaws in the prosecuting witness's statement or to prove that they were lying. An example question that might be asked during cross is, "Isn't it true that you really couldn't see because it was almost dark outside?" Finally, once all of the prosecution witnesses have been questioned and cross-examined, then the defense will call its witnesses, and the prosecution will have the opportunity to cross-examine, as stated in the bolded box here. Once all of the witnesses have been questioned and cross-examined, it's time for closing arguments, which is step 6 in the trial procedures. Closing arguments are the opportunity for the prosecution and defense to summarize testimony in a way that's going to convince the jury to believe their side of the case. In a criminal case, the prosecution is looking for that guilty verdict, while the defense is looking or asking for a not guilty verdict. Once closing arguments are complete, then we move to the final step of trial procedure, which is the jury deliberation. During jury deliberation, the students will step into the hall or into an area that is secluded from other students and deliberate on the case. They will discuss whether or not they feel that the defense witness is innocent or guilty. Then they will write their verdict. After the jury deliberates, they will re-enter the courtroom. The judge will address them and ask them to read the verdict. Once the trial is complete, then the students will complete a self-reflection. And that is the entire procedure of the trial. This can look very different in each classroom, depending on what works best for your students. The final piece of information that I've included on this document in the second bolded box are objections. Objections are something that I use in my courtroom, but it's something that we build up to throughout the school year. The first trial, there are no objections that are allowed simply because it's the first time we are participating as a class and working through the motions together. Once the students become more familiar with the trial procedures, then we will start to incorporate objections. This is something that not only the judge has to be aware of, but the teacher should help with objections as well. That way there's no disagreement among the students in your class. Again, if you have any questions about trial procedures, please reach out to your content specialist, Ms. Kate Long, or review the additional resources provided.